am an occasional student of Japan, but so I want to ask one question about Japan and make a comment about the United States. I think I'll do it in the reverse order, actually. As for the United States, to present the United States as a kind of undifferentiated culture, I think is a little bit, you know, I don't know, it's sort of exaggerated. Clearly, we have different cultures. You referred to this in your comment, you know, Chinese people, Japanese people, Jewish people who live here and do have groups that encourage saving. So I do think one has to consider that different, you know, groups, ethnic groups with different kinds of experiences may bring something different to the table. That may not affect the overall, you know, assessment that you make, but I do think it needs to be part of the picture. So I don't know if you want, then I'll make my second point is to the issue of Japan and the fact that people in Japan do a lot of installment buying. And so I'd like you to comment on that because that is a form of credit. So I'd like you to speak about that if you don't mind.
I certainly didn't want to imply that America was undifferentiated. And in my book I spend a lot of time on talking about various pockets of thrift in the United States, often associated with various immigrant groups or ethnic groups. Germans, Scandinavians had very strong savings habits in a lot of the upper Midwest and in Ohio and Pennsylvania. You see that. You see in the big cities that European immigrants of various types brought all sorts of savings cultures with them and were great savers. And one of the reasons we have postal savings in 1910 is that it was seen particularly as a way of keeping Italian immigrants from sending their money back home because Italian immigrants, for good reason, didn't trust the banks. So immigrant cultures in general, and it doesn't actually seem to matter that much where they're from, immigrant cultures including today, I mean, people who come from Latin America, they tend to be strong savers. They have to be strong savers. They can't consume it. They have remittances they have to send home and things like that. So we do have these pockets. When I was talking about America today, I mean, we do have a national culture. Despite having a few pockets now. I think it used to be more profound, these various these subcultures, but I think today we have a pretty nationwide consumer culture that we have a national media that for 100 years has been very powerful in a national sense. We're a decentralized country politically, but in terms of media, we are a very centralized country. So I would answer that. Now, you're right that Japanese consumers have actually availed themselves of installment buying for a long time. Installment buying tends to be a much more sustainable form of consumer credit than the credit card. This is true in America, it's true elsewhere. You usually have 1 to 3 year periods. You have set amount of a payment, the monthly payment that it used to be in the 1950s. Americans wrote about how the installment purchase system actually incentivized saving because you had to plan each month as a household, make sure you had the amount of money. It was tied to a good. You didn't want the repo man to come in and take your fridge away. It's embarrassing. The neighbors see, things like that. So it's very different, that more disciplined installment buying system from the universal credit card thing, especially the revolving credit, where you don't know what your payment is each month, or where if you don't pay the full balance, it climbs and climbs. You're thrown into default rates of 18, 30%, all that sort of thing. It's very untransparent to people, and it's really hooked people on debt.